For my presentation, I chose a topic that's close to my heart, and my hope is that you will benefit from what I have to say. My topic is nature writing and grief. Mark Lebanon, in his article Grief and the Solace of Nature, states, "Nature demands nothing of me. It accepts me as I am. Nature goes about its life and provides openings for me to participate as I want. I can sit beside a river for hours and let the sounds of the water soothe my sorrow. I can wander in the forest's cool shadows when the heat and brightness of the sun become too much. Or I can tromp across a mountain and physically work out my anger and frustrations." I work at a hospice organization in Manhattan, Kansas. Hospice is end-of-life care for the terminally ill. It meets the needs of patients physically, emotionally, socially, and spiritually. In addition, hospice supports the family and the caregivers of the patients. Death is a part of life. We encounter death in several forms: the death of a friend, the death of a sibling, of a parent, of a child, or even of a coworker. Those who experience death are left exposed, numb, and not sure how to respond or feel. Maria Shriver, in the foreword of the book on grief and grieving, wrote, "We are a grief-illiterate nation." Grief is a very, very emotional process. Frank Brennan, author of Wrestling with an Angel, writes about his own grief after the loss of his son. He says, "My weakness and vulnerability are exposed in my search for meaning in the face of mystery. My life is overturned. Numbness, uncontrolled crying, and despair rule. Grief is inevitable, but there is hope." I propose that nature, interwoven with nature writing, is an effective tool in helping people work through the grief process. So, what is the grief process, and how can nature writing help? Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, in her book on grief and grieving, Finding the Meaning of Grief Through the 5 Stages of Loss, highlights these 5 stages and expounds on each stage. She lists the stages as following: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. These stages, according to Kubler-Ross, are ways for people to manage losses. There is no formula. We enter each stage and exit each stage in our own time. These stages are a way to frame what we're experiencing. However, each represents a difficult journey we go through. We are not left alone or helpless during these stages. Brodie Furness, in his article, "A Systematic Writing Program as a Tool in the Grief Process," supports the ideas that a structured writing program is a valuable tool in the grief process. Writing is a way to communicate and express our feelings. In writing, we can reflect, allowing us to discover what we feel and what we think. The writing process leads to understanding ourselves, which opens the door to new insights. The author states, "Increase awareness, organization, new insights, and acknowledgments are factors that are essential in dealing with grieving. Writing about difficult life events helps us cope with our grief. Writing aids in healing and can help people as they go through each stage." Writing is an effective tool for dealing with loss and grief, but however, it is not the only tool. Experiencing nature, or the natural world, is another effective method in overcoming grief. There is an innate quality in nature that's restorative and healing. It is consistent and regenerative. When was the last time you were in the mountains, or swimming in the vast ocean, or simply hiking a nature trail? In nature, we are inspired. We are in awe of something bigger than us. We think about the world around us, or simply let nature soothe us and bring peace to our suffering hearts. We bring our brokenness to nature, and nature comforts us. The good news is that nature is available to all of us, and we can incorporate it into our daily lives. It also provides some order and insight. In nature, we see a reference for death and dying. but also rebirth. Sam Grover, in his article, How Nature Can Heal Us from Grief, states, being in nature, one becomes aware of the infinite circle of life, the never-ending circle of birth, life, death, and rebirth can put life and death into perspective and impart us with a sense of consistency after experiencing a life-changing loss or death. In a sense, it gives us a sense of moving on. Nature provides solace in grief. I experienced this with the death of my mother. My own grieving was difficult to manage. My mother loved roses. One day, I was walking through a park and noticed a rose garden. The roses were in bloom, and I had an overwhelming connection with my mother at that moment. The moment was pivotal because it began my own healing process. I spent many days in that garden, and even years later, I still find myself drawing comfort there. Writing and nature go hand in hand. They are inseparable. Together, they can offer hope and healing for those who are grieving. According to John Elder, English and environmental professor, nature writing encompasses intimate and reflective essays. He states, essays are grounded in the natural world and science, but also open to the spiritual meanings and values of the physical creation. This semester, I have learned firsthand from our readings the importance of nature writing, and even from our field observation journal, I've experienced the benefits of nature writing. In my nature writing paper, I was able to reconnect with my past and provide a platform for me to share that with my children, and it gives us a sense of shared history. In the article, Nature and Grief, Empowering Teachings from the World Around Us, the author developed from his own experiences of grief ways a person can structure their writing. He suggests the 3 following ways. First, he said, write about what you see, either outside or shortly after you get home. He says to make your writing more meaningful, take a picture or pictures of the scene, and then look at that picture while you write. Secondly, he suggests using a format. This is the format that he uses. First, he puts a title of the scene. Then, thoughts about what he saw. The next column, he wrote about the feelings he had. And then how what he saw related to what he is experiencing or the challenges that he's facing. And then the last one, write about what is coming through you at the moment. Don't edit it, don't analyze it. Trust that your intuition will be your guide. In conclusion, nature is healing, writing is healing. Weaved together, they can be a powerful tool in helping people work through the stages of grief. Jean Goebel, in his article, Tag, Grief Reflection After Sunset, shares the story of a woman who found healing through nature. This is her story. On the way back to the car, I wandered through the apple trees, abandoned long ago by the previous orchard owners. Half the fruit fallen, decaying, returning to the earth. The other still thriving, bright red on the branches. This is how I see myself in the moment. I am human, not meant to be perfect or always whole. Mother Nature has soothed my soul, brought me to peace, as she promised always. Driving away, I passed a funeral home with an overcrowded parking lot and people huddled together closely outside. I understand that I am not the only one who grieves. We all do. It is the shared price we paid for the coveted gift of love.